You have to remember, we have a guy in-house who his last project was the Mars rover project for NASA. This is a guy who worked on nuclear submarines. We have another engineer who his last project with the military was the Black Hawk helicopter project. We have people, Rich, on our team who helped to create the Wii, who helped to create the original Xbox, who helped to create the PlayStation 2 and 3. But we also have people on the team from NASA and the military. Rich, there's 600 years of experience just on our corporate executive team. We've worked on the biggest projects ever of all time in the video game industry. And so, I knew Mike Kennedy before that whole thing. And again, I know Michael Artz, who's the president of Atari VCS. I can tell you this, Rich, is that, Jason Enos, who worked at Konami for 12 years, personal friend of mine for over 25 years. Yuji Naka, one of the creators of Sonic the Hedgehog, he flew over from Japan. Good buddy of mine. The president of Marvel Publishing is a very dear friend of mine for many years. To me, Shigeru Miyamoto, and I had the great honor and pleasure. I've known him for 30 years. And we have a great respect for each other. I've been good friends with Shigeru Miyamoto for about 30 years, almost my whole career. And he has great respect for what I do. There's a company out there, a developer, they're called Barnstorm Games. They're over in the UK. They're good friends of mine. Kelly Knievel, and he's the guy I'm friends with. He also did James Bond stuff. He's done so many great things. Richard Jakes, look him up. Another very dear friend, talented friend. And I love Nolan Bushnell. He's a personal dear friend of mine. Snistastic. Have you talked to Peter Moore about joining in television? No, but Peter's a good friend. Have a lot of friends who still work with, in the Yankees organization. Any Guitar Hero coming out? Maybe. The folks there are very dear friends of mine. I have a very famous cousin, Steven Tyler from Aerosmith. I'm cousins with Steven Tyler and Liv Tyler. And of course, Hank and Alexi are now, billionaires, right? And they're both very good friends of mine. The folks over at Google who are doing the Stadia, Phil Harrison, all those, Jade, very dear friends of mine. Really? And his daughter Maya now runs the Tetris company. Anyway, we're all good friends. I'm good friends. I worked on Blitz football, and I'm good friends with the Boom Shakalaka guy. I have a lot of friends who work for a lot of companies. I'm friends with George Lucas, the guy who did the very first computer graphic ever in a movie. So that's Steve Lissenberger and Richard Taylor, good friends of mine. I have a very dear friend at Mattel who heads up, he's actually heads up the entire division of toys. I got this one signed by my good friend Nolan Bushnell. Exactly. We're both good friends with Hank Rogers. By Ralph Baer. He was a very dear friend for many, many years. Every single comic in chronological order. I actually worked with Stan Lee. In fact, I own the Guinness World Record for the person who's worked on the most video games in their lifetime. I actually hold the Guinness Book of World Records for the person who's worked on the most video games in their lifetime. I actually have the Guinness World Record for the person who's worked on the most video games in their lifetime. I own the Guinness World Record for the person who's worked on the most video games in their lifetime. I hold the Guinness World Record for the person who's worked on the most video games in their life. I own the Guinness World Record for the person who's worked on the most video games. We actually own the Guinness World Record for that show as well as the longest running touring symphony show. Video Games Live holds the record for the biggest symphony show ever seen performed live. We also have the Guinness World Record for the longest running symphony tour ever as well, and 600,000 people listening, outside and set up videos. We had 100-foot LED screens, speakers everywhere. I was doing it on stage for real at a sold-out show, doing sold-out shows at the Hollywood Bowl or Red Rocks, or breaking Guinness World Records in China. 752,000 people I performed in front of. Well, 20 years later, 4 Guinness World Records later, including the longest touring symphony show of all time, including the biggest symphony show ever seen live, 752,000 people in Beijing, China in one show. But then I did a deal with the Chinese government. We were the first ones to use a video screen. We had rock and roll lighting. We had lasers. We had a stage show production. I had people on wires flying across the stage. But that first show, you had to understand how important that was, not only to video game music, but the entire video game industry. We were making video games, mainstream. Not only am I a hardcore gamer and know and respect and appreciate the history, but also a game developer who's holds the Guinness World Record for the person who's worked on the most video games in a lifetime, 350 plus products. I was the very first video game composer to ever put out an album worldwide on a major label. We were actually working on a game for the Nintendo PlayStation. So I was one of the only people who actually had one in their office at its time. I could have easily, I've been running Video Games Live for 18 years. I was on television for 12 years with 2 shows. I have, worked on hundreds of very successful video games. Put in Video Games Live. We have hundreds of thousands of videos, and I'm appearing in every one of them. Right. So who's, I put the last song that I released on YouTube was, check out The Fat Rat. And we did a Pokemon remix with the original Gotta Catch 'Em All singer, Jason Page. These 2 guys are great friends of mine. We all worked on a song together. It got 1 million views in one day. I did a deal with the Chinese government. I'm actually in the Smithsonian as well. A lot of people don't know that, but yeah, we did 5 games in a row. And every single one of them was an absolute home run. And I have olive trees in my backyard. And I have so much. Now, I also have a life-size Tron light cycle in my garage. Yes. I'm a big Ferrari guy, a Ferrari collector. And by the way, I'll be over in an hour to give you a ride in the Ferrari. We actually met in the Ferrari club. We met in the Ferrari club. He was the guy in the Ferrari with me. Yeah. Like it's a 30-minute, it's a 10-minute drive in my car, but 30 minutes is in a normal car.